Hey everyone, so now we've got our big ass tyres on here, which is great. 35 by 12 and a halves. They're on 16 by 40, 16 by 10 neg 44s. This is where we come across our issues of what tyres are going to fit, what ones aren't. So a lot of people talk about just lift it. Suspension lift isn't going to help at all. We can see out very clearly with this one. So these are 35s. They are Treps or copies, but that doesn't really matter. But we can see they're a big tyre, and as we turn, we've got collision. That's probably not even halfway through lock. So we can see we're clearly hitting the panel. We've already taken our mud flap off to try and minimise clearing, but yeah, we've got to go a lot further. That's still not there, and there's no way with suspension when it compresses, there's no way that's going to clear any better or any worse. So the first thing we're going to do is the body lift, because we want to minimise our chopping to our panels here as much as possible. Because of the way the tyre's swinging, we can hopefully keep this a little bit in, maybe put a mud flap back on just for I don't know, we might not, we'll see how we go. But to minimise the chopping of any of our structural panel down here, but I think we're still gonna have to chop that. But the body lifting up will give us that clearance from that to start off with. Then we'll look at body mount chop after that. But we'll just run you through the kit. So pretty much from a 1 inch to a 2 inch, we do need to have a steering extension. 1 inch isn't a must, but we do recommend it, because as you lift the body up away from the chassis, we do get that lengthening of the steering shaft. And then we've got the rest of the parts here. So our blocks, bolts, everything's here, ready to go. Because we're a tub rear end now, we've got our load blocks with little notches in there, and the rest of it's the body. So I think I might leave this one up to Jasper and the boys to fit up for us, and we'll get some more video of that. So a little bit of information on body mounts and so forth for these cars. They do have a heavier chassis through the centre, so there is only 4 main bolts between the single cab, space cab and the dual cab. So there's only 4 mounts overall in the body. There's 2 very front ones. But on the tub here, you've still got your 6 throughout, but a lot of people don't know about these. These are load blocks. So I call them load blocks anyway, because there's no bolt going through them. It is basically just to bear the load. I see basically every tray build that's done, I feel it's done incorrectly, but that's my personal opinion, because I have actually bent 2 Isuzu chassis. One was I bent it here, and one was bent at the back through an accident. But an accident with a recovery, but so be it. So deal with what I call the load blocks. In a tub, they all have it. They all have a contact point. This is obviously body lifted now, so we've got a body lift block in here. Don't mind our spaces here. It was an aftermarket tub, so we don't have the rubber. There's normally a rubber spacer in there. We didn't have that with this tray, so this tub, sorry, because the tray beforehand already had taken them off. So what you've got is, you've got to look at a worst case scenario. If you, so like I did with my Isuzu, when I bent my chassis, I hit a washout in Fraser Island. ABS let me down, so the ABS didn't let me slow down. I wasn't speeding or anything silly. When you're in the high spot of a washout and doing 80 k's an hour, it can be unseen until the last moment. That's what happened, unfortunately. So my ABS didn't let me stop or slow down whatsoever. I hit the other side, which is coming down onto it. And as I did that, obviously everything cased out. So the front cased out, I actually flattened my sump, the back end bottoming out really hard. And when we bottom out, we're bottoming out in this part of the chassis. If you look at a tray build, they've got a mount forward, they've got a mount right back here, and there's another mount back here. There's no support through the middle, but a tub always has this, what I call a load block. It's got to transfer the load when you case out hard with a bump stop, hits on this bracketry here, stops this part from bending so easy, because then you've got the support from the load above. So a tray should use that load point as well, because there is actually a hole in the chassis there, which is part of the load point. Some of the cars have them directly above, some are either side of it, but this one in particular is right back here. It's still going to create a lot of structural integrity backing this chassis here. So when the suspension cases out, very similar to when you see people they're talking about bending chassis, airbags and so forth. An airbag does exactly the same thing, puts a direct load here. You can overcome that by obviously not putting too much pressure in the airbags, but to run them properly and well, they should have a bracket above it as well, which your tubs do, but trays don't. So I'd strongly urge for tray builders or people who have trays to look at getting a load point put into there. It can't be hard to do, because I already do 6 of them. What's the matter with putting another 2 in there? But it is just a contact point. There is no through bolt, so it's held down by the clamping. Very easy to sort out on any aftermarket tray. So car's over at the other workshop to get up in the hoist and have a look at what we've done with the body lift. So we've got some tyre clearance issues still, obviously. So we're clearing our body as much as we can. We are going to do a little bit of a chop here. But if we get Ali to turn the wheel a bit to the left, please, hard left. You see we've got clearance happening a bit, but now we're coming into impact with our body mount. So if we can zoom to have a look at our body mount up in here. Up here we're cutting into this pretty hard. So this is the problem that we've got with body mount chops on these later model, the Forge 83 platform. That body mount has 2 bolts on it either side to retain it to the chassis. Because we're basically chopping right where this bolt here is. So we need to chop clearance for this tyre because we're still not on full lock yet. So to chop that off, we're actually going to be losing one of those bolts. Right, so we're going to get ready for this body mount chop now because, as I mentioned before, these 2 bolts, it has to be clocked. Luckily, there's already a bolt hole here, which is almost in the right spot. But what we do, we actually use as part of the location. You'll see that soon. So what we're going to do is start off with the marking. So this is our kit that we use. We do sell this, so it's all made of billet steel, so it will be well. It comes with a template there to start off with. So our left-hand side matches up with our left-hand side. So this is the component that fits up in there. That's a locator, which we use this hole for, which is perfect. This front locates up beautifully into there, and it all gets welded up into there. So that angle is already predetermined to suit basically a 35-inch tyre. No one's going to run any bigger than that. You'd have fun fitting 37s in here no matter what. So 35 is well and truly enough for any 33, no matter what offset you have. It's just a matter, you want to make sure it's on, when it's on full lock, you've got, that is a parallel line to the tyre, and then have extra clearance again from there, because suspension is going to travel up and down, but you've got that little bit of flex when you're braking with all the rubbers and so forth. But what we'll do, this is the template. It is marked right hand side here, but all it is, it's a mirror. So for the left hand side, we use the opposite way around, which is that way. We use one of the original bolts on this back hole here, just to locate that in place correctly. This hole here, we can actually sight that up pretty well. And we've got our pen, we're going to scribe along the top, which that's our cut-off line. We've got to remove that line basically, and then we've got to follow that through to this side. So it's a nice straight line, which is our clearance. We scribe this line across, following this face. And then at the back notch here, we follow that straight down. There's a little notch we've got to take out of here, which we'll see is a clearance for our bolt. We mark that little notch in there, and that pretty much gives us our cutout point. That'll give us our clearance for our tyre, as well as our extra body that we've put in there to give structural member. So with these body mounts, a lot of people don't realise that these are very important to keep. Not so much for the mount, but it's got to keep the structural integrity, because in case of an accident like this car had, this suspension was folded up. We can see some impact marks up here. When the wheel stoves in, it hits hard on here. You can see a polish mark from here as well. It stops the wheel coming in and crushing passengers' legs or the driver's legs on the other side. So it is a very important one to keep structurally sound. That's why we're using billet components. As you can tell, that's some pretty thick armour there. Thicker than what's in there, but you want to make sure we always over-engineer where we can. We'll make this first cut, and then the rest of it I've got to use a grinder, so cut and disc, and then we'll face it up and dress it up a little bit with a grinding disc. So let's get started. Now that one hasn't followed the cut line perfectly, but that's where we'll fix it up with the grinder a little bit. I'd much prefer to cut this side of the line rather than cutting in the wrong way, because then we end up with not enough material. So I'm just going to give that a quick grind back. Right, so that's in, which means we've cut enough out of the back here, which is awesome. And the other bolt, we've got to actually mark the hole there too, which will do that template. But what we've got there is good. So just to show close up, and I'll point with some markers because that's very hot in there. This cut along the face here is mainly so that we've got that level again, because the plate does sit up, so we're getting rid of any drop down in there. It's got to be level across there. you'll probably see a little bit of kick up. That's just the way the metal relieves, but once we bolt things down, it'll be all nice and flat again. And what we've got to do as well at the end of it is bevel all these edges here to allow for filler to go in once it's welded. So you can weld it and then grind it back and make it all look basically factory. What we need to do with these brackets as well, we've already got machined bevelers in here, which we'll see once they're fitted together. All edges where it's going to be welded are going to be beveled, but they are E-coated to protect them from rust. What you do want to do is give them a very light grind up on those bevels, just for the welding process. So this hole that we've marked at the top of here is very hard to get to, obviously with the body on top. So it gives us an idea, but nail punch from underneath, we can guide. It's only going to be relatively close because we're going to drill it at about 11.5 mil. Because it is a clearance hole. It's not the end of the world if you don't get it perfect, but it's easy to check before you go welding. So nice couple of sharp bangs. That should get us a point to get started with. We're going to start drilling from underneath. And we just dress that up, deburr the hole, and then we're good to go. Going final fitment here. We've got everything sort of lined up, but we found there's a bit of a rocking point here, which is the bend in the middle in there, which you can't really correct. The machining here, it was a bit hard to try to find a way to get that done, but what we'll do, we'll just dress that quickly with the grinder. So I'll just show you this. It's like when you're deburring this, we just take the edge through. So that should now fit in nice and flat. That should be enough. Don't worry if you go a little bit too far, because that one there, they're going to be welding up to it anyway. It'll be all covered up by the mount when it goes over the top anyway. So it's just to give a bit of clearance, so when you put the new bolt through, it's not going to bind any thread. As you can see, this has got a clearance hole machined into it, which is allowing for the original nut to stay there. So now, originally the bolt went from the top down, now we're going to go the other way because we're actually mounting this plate up to it. Do be careful, we put a little bit of grease on this because sometimes the threads are a little bit ordinary. But if you do it too tight, it is pulling the nut from the wrong direction. So this is only holding it where, whilst we wash and weld it. Right, so here we have it all bolted up, ready to go. See, these are the bolts that we supply as well as this one. So this one bolts and clamps it up. This one here clamps and levels out this surface that sprung up before. Everything's sitting nice and flat. We've got the top of the bolt that goes underneath. So that's pressing everything in, all beautifully lined up, ready for that welding to be done. So that'll be tacked into place. And then this panel sits on the front. It gets welded up right there and closed up like a brand new part. Once that's all welded up, so we just tuck it in place, then take these bolts out, so then we can weld the rest of it up. Once that's all been done, we can grind it up, make it look really fresh. And then those now are the two new bolt holes for the body mount. Pretty exciting day. We've got Tom Hooper from Southern Cross Fabrics coming around. He's coming around in his Unimog, he said, so big truck to deliver a nice little parcel for us, but he's going to help us fit up our rock sliders to the new rig. So seems that we've done our body lift now. We did order them to suit a 2-inch body lift because obviously rock sliders, they go up and down to suit your body after a body lift because you are separating the chassis from that body itself. So we needed to get them lifted up a little bit. So he already had them made up with this model, which is great. A lot of time you'll use my car if you can for testing if it's a new car, but this one seems we're a few years behind the pack. He's already got it made up, which is awesome. So really looking forward to the fitment of that. Some new things in the mix. Might interest a few people. Nice carbon fibre tanks here. Probably some people might want to guess what it's for, but I've got a couple of these sitting around. So we're going to look at setting them up somewhere, but have a guess what they're for. You might not get it, but hey, some might. It'll be an interesting one to see what people think they are, but they are designed to hold 4,500 PSI, so there's a few things that come in that sort of holding canister. But anyway, let's get on with this day and get some stuff done. Here he is. Just fits in the driveway, this thing. Hey mate, how you going? I'm good. Right. What do we got here? A couple of sliders. Man, look at this thing. It's a beast. So we fitted a body lift, we fitted our body mount chop as well. So that was all done. Didn't have to worry about engineering on this car because obviously it's not road legal, but they get engineered on other vehicles. So yeah, body lift is fitted. We're gonna do our drive out, see how we go with our steering lock now. It looks pretty good, but we've got to remember suspension is gonna travel. It's gonna give us more, more up and down movement, which is gonna travel the same path. And then braking, so when you're turning, braking, the wheels and everything's going to flex because you've got rubber mounts. Rubber mounts on the body, so the body's going to shift forward on the chassis as well as all the arms, they're going to flex. Yeah, that's right. We haven't lifted the bull bar yet because that's one of those jobs that's always a custom job with bull bars. We will do that, so you can see a bit of gaps exposed here and here, but that on this bar, what is it, the Iron Man, it's not too bad. It looks like we can just re-drill and bolt and lift and go from there. It shouldn't be too bad. But we'll do that later. We wanted to clear these tyres first so it's actually drivable. So everything turned out pretty nice. You'll see an extra little goodie in there. We got the rock sliders from Southern Cross Fab Works. Tom Hooper came in yesterday and dropped off them. Obviously he had to come in his big Mog. So his Uni Mog come and deliver a couple of small rock sliders for us. But that was pretty cool to see that come down the driveway. So we'll do a bit more of a close look at those, but he did make them to suit the space cab and a 2-inch body. So rock sliders are made to suit that. Looks quite nice because the sliders that were on there, they were damaged. They weren't very good. They were pushed up. Yeah, we wanted that little bit more clearance, a bit of beefy. So we got the fat boys. So they're nice and fat tubing. Sort of suits with more bar work that we're going to have in this car in the future anyway. We'll do a bit of a walk around and have a look and show you a bit of a detail about the body lift.
So I guess the first thing we want to have a look at is the body mount chop that we've done to help clear these big 35s. So you can see we've nicely spun the body mount back here and given up this nice cut-off point to give some clearance for these tyres. Now these tyres are quite tall and quite rounded, so I'm not too sure how we're going to go with clearance. We're going to find out, but as you can see, it's quite an aggressive chop, takes it right to the edge of the mount there. This is all nice thick steel. Other thing, body lift. So we've got, the main thing we had to address is steering. So we've got a steering extension in here. On this side, we can take a look through the wheel arch. You can see we've got a nice bit of eco steel just here. And this just helps with the extension on the shaft, because obviously once you do a body lift, that opens up. You can only go so far before it starts locking out, and you'll get a pretty rough knocking feeling through the steering. So this extension just gives you a bit more shaft length here to help with that, fix that issue that comes with the body lift. And that's basically it for tyre clearance. Obviously we've messed up the guards a little bit with the steering that we have been doing, but hopefully with the body mount chop and the body lift, we're going to clear most of it, and we're not going to have to do too much cutting, smashing with the hammer, that sort of thing to the guards. But I guess we can find out right now. We've got a bit more clearance now. It's a bit of a tight squeeze here at the Bungee Mod shop, so it takes a few goes sometimes to get out. Looks like you got a bit more lock on that one. Looks good. I think you're going to be in contact. Just have a look down the arch. Oh, it's very close. All right, so we've got a lot more clearance now, but we've still got a little bit of body panel adjustment needed. It's just grabbed on the corner of the guard here, and that's actually part of the body where it bolts to, so.
It's quite sharp too.
Yeah, we'll just, a little bit of persuasion.
Roll that one under. As the wheel's turning, you're going to want to grab that if anything. We've already hit this one. Let's just press that in first. There we go.
Ball peen does a good job of it. So we've just come in here with the hammer and scissors and trimmed back a little bit of the plastic and just folded the metal out of the way, just for when we're moving around the shop and where it gets parked up at home, just so it's not scrubbing the daylights out of everything. But unfortunately, just because of how big these tyres are and how round like the actual tread sits at the moment, it's really grabbing on the bottom here of the guard and the body panel itself. So it's actually part of the cab here. So we're gonna have to do a chop at a later date and actually chop out a bit of metal. It's one of those things, being that it's such a big tyre, this just has to be done. But I think for now, that'll do. That'll keep us mobile. And we might just address this big ugly gap that we've got going on here, front and back, finish off the body lift and fit some Mungie composite inner guards all at the same time.